Alrighty, up next we have Tom Swiss. He is speaking on spirituality, creativity, and vitality. Thanks.
Let's steal this. It's here. Hey, then I don't have to hold my notes. How about that? It's like modern technology. Hi, folks.
Hello.
I'm Tom Swiss, and I do a bunch of different stuff. Poetry, yay, and music, and shiatsu acupressure, and martial arts. And I write about spirituality from what I call a Zen pagan perspective. So there are a lot of things I could talk about tonight, but I've only got a few minutes. So I'd like to give you kind of a big picture overview of what I've been working on. When I talk about spirituality, creativity, and vitality, well, we're kind of hitting spirit, mind, and body here, kind of getting everything. So it's a big topic, so maybe the best way to look at it is to start with the complete opposite of what I want to do. Let's consider a typical working guy these days. On the job, he's expected to do decent enough work to not get fired, but not a really good job because it would take too long, be too expensive. So there's not a lot of job satisfaction. There's no inspiration coming from that day job, right? No sense that this work is connecting him to something bigger. Think about the movie Office Space. Kind of really encapsulates what a lot of people doing on the job these days. There's no job security, he's probably got some huge ass debt like we all do these days, low level stress all the time. So when he gets home, he's worn out from all that, right? He's not just too tired to work on something of his own, he's too worn down to even watch something intellectual on Netflix. A documentary, an art film, read a book, forget it. It's time for reality TV, sitcoms, shoot 'em up video games. It's not that he's too dumb for the good stuff. He's just too damn tired. It's like being starving, but so weak from hunger that you can't eat. Speaking of starving, if he had the energy, he could make a good healthy meal, but he's too worn out to cook up something good. So it's junk. And all the fat and sugar of the standard American diet. Standard American diet. S-A-D. SAD. There is no more apt acronym in the world, my friends, than the standard American diet. It's like a drug that dulls the pain a little bit, all that fat and sugar, but doesn't really help. He's feeling bloated from that, worn out. Exercise? Oh, he just can't get up and get into that. So he's physically ill from this lifestyle. His mind is dulled even more with that dulled mind. He can't see a way to change his circumstances. He can't see any way to take care of these problems. Find a new job, or at least a new approach to the job he's got. He's trapped in what our friend Henry David Thoreau called a life of quiet desperation. Now, do you see how it's all a vicious circle? One element of that feeds into the other, feeds into the other, feeds into the other. But the good news is that a circle has an infinite number of points where you can break it. When the problems all depend on each other, then if you knock down one part, you can get out of the trap. But that circle is going to reassert itself unless you build up a virtuous circle. You have to keep coming back to this process. We need practices that support us on both mind, body, and spirit. And when we can help one person with that, then we can help the next person, then we can help the next person, and that is how we're going to save the world, my friends, one person at a time.
I know that.
Now that's a general outline of how all these different things that I'm interested in kind of fit together. Maybe a little big idea, but you know, it's kind of what I'm trying to do. I'd like to get specific, talk a little bit about one idea that I've really been focusing on the past few years. This is an idea that comes from Joseph Campbell, and it kind of puts where we are as a society in perspective. So journey with me now, if you will. Jump into the Wayback Machine, and let's go back 10 or 15,000 years ago. Before agriculture, before civilization, when our ancestors were tribal gatherer-hunters out there. Now those tribal cultures are kind of simple. They're not very complicated. There's not a lot of division of labor. Everybody does everything. Maybe men and women do different jobs, but if you grab a 15-year-old boy out of one of these cultures, he knows pretty much all the culture and technology that's out there for him. He might not be the best at tracking game, but he can track an animal. He might not be the best at making an arrowhead, but he can chip some flint. He might not be the best at finding medicinal herbs, but if he's got a bellyache, he knows what leaves to chew. And he might not be the best at going into a visionary, mystical state, but he's had those experiences. He went on a vision quest. That's how he became a man. He's not the best in the tribe at it. The best in the tribe is the tribal shaman. But just like everybody can make an arrowhead, everybody could have that mystical vision, that direct experience of the spirit. But then agriculture gets going, right? We settle down in one place to work the land, civilization. Now, farming is great and all, but agricultural society is complicated. It's not like one person can know it all anymore. Some people know how to make the tools, some people know how to raise the crops, some people know how to fight those guys on the other side of the hill, some people are managers. And one of those specialists in the field of spirituality is the priest. Now, the priest in a civilized society is very different than the tribal shaman. A shaman is often chosen by the spirits in some way. Any of y'all ever read Black Elk Speaks? The autobiography of the Dakota shaman? Yeah, I think some people know this here. So, when he was a kid, he was sick for like 12 days. He fell down and he had this intense vision. Almost died. And when he came back from that, and later on he talked to the medicine men, they're like, well, guess you're going to be a shaman now. And it wasn't like he decided, I'm going to be a shaman when I grow up, and I'm going to go to school. It's like, nope, the spirits kind of go, you, zap. We didn't care what you want, man. Boom, that's what you got. Okay? It's not always like that, but it's not an unusual story to hear of this kind of spontaneous vision in these tribal societies. Now, a shaman might study with someone else to learn techniques, but ultimately their authority comes from their own personal relationship with this other state of consciousness. Now, on the other hand, a priest has to be trained and invested with authority by other priests. Think about a Catholic priest. You can't just suddenly decide tomorrow that you're going to set up a Catholic church, right? It doesn't work that way. You got to have the bishop come over and do the jim jam on you, and do that whole ritual, the investment of holy orders. You only get to be a priest by the authority of another priest, and part of the priest's job is to maintain the social order. You don't get to have that direct experience anymore. See, you got to go through the priest. You want to talk to God, you don't get to talk directly to God, to the divine, to the spirit, whatever. You really got to go through the priest. That's a good way to keep the social order going, isn't it, right? If I'm between you and God, that kind of gives me a little bit of power. Now, that's the story of civilization. Thousands of years, up until about 150 or 200 years ago, when the Industrial Revolution really got rolling. Now that whole model of agricultural civilization is falling apart. And Joseph Campbell points out that the new scientific and technological age that we're entering, we're going to need something that's more like that shamanism. We're going to need something that's more direct experience of the divine. We need that old connection back. Now, one of my favorite descriptions of that connection is in Allen Ginsberg's famous poem, How. He talks about angel-headed hipsters burning for the ancient heavenly connection through the starry dynamo in the machinery of night. And I know some of the people out there tonight, they remind me of that. I think we got some burning angel-headed hipsters out there tonight. Artists, performers, healers, teachers, all connecting to that energy in 100 different ways. Now, Ginsberg also wrote in that same poem, who thought they were only mad when Baltimore gleamed in supernatural ecstasy. That's right, Baltimore got a shout out on how. So let's keep an eye out for that gleam. And that's about all I got time for tonight. So if any of this stuff is interesting to you, I've got a book you can buy. I've got a blog called The Zen Pagan at Pathos.com. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, all like that. I'm happy to give you my cards. And I'm looking forward to talking about some of this stuff at the Firehouse. So thank you very much.